So then I started digging through Green Day's catalog, and man, oh man, Insomniac and Morning in particular are two of my all-time favorite records. I realize more than ever just how gifted Billy Joe Armstrong is. I really like their new record, Saviors, too. It's got a really cool edge to it, and a lot of great songs. Living in the 20s is amazing, a total banger. And did I forget the title? I think I did. I was drunk in them. Dilemma, I was right. My flawed memory came through. Oop. Great chorus. Great stuff. Then I extended that open-minded listening to Rush's catalog. Rush has been one of my favorite bands since I was 12 years old. And I was devoted. I was devoted to that group. I followed them through all of their, as Geddy Lee more or less admitted in his amazing autobiography, My Effin' Life, which I just read, and loved, their subpar 90s music. I bought Presto, and The Past is still one of the most emotional and passionate and amazing songs that I've ever heard. But the rest of it, it's pretty weak and pretty rough. But I kept soldiering on. I bought Counterparts. I bought Test for Echo. Am I forgetting another subpar 90s Rush record? I think that was it. Oh, Roll the Bones, of course. Dreamline, total classic. I love it. I love Double Agent off Counterparts. Not much else off those records. Resist off Test for Echo is a pretty emotional and passionate tune. And I do get something out of it. But for the most part, to me, Test for Echo is pretty much a dud. So after Test for Echo, after that disappointment, and also at that time I was getting into a lot of different types of music. At that time I was starting to get into punk rock and indie rock, electronic music. I was really broadening my horizons, and especially since they weren't really putting out quality material anymore, it didn't make sense at all for me to keep indulging a band that I'd been listening to since I was 12. So I stuck to the Rush classics, continued to love those, and I moved on in my music listening journey. But they released a bunch of records in the millennium. Vapor Trails, Snakes and Arrows, and Clockwork Angels. And again, with true OCD perfectionism, and I don't want to let myself off the hook and say that my at times overly critical brain is due to a mental illness, because it's also just my flawed nature as well. So let's leave the OCD out of the equation and just say that I was being closed-minded. So in my closed-minded way, I heard a smidge of Vapor Trails, Snakes and Arrows, and Clockwork Angels, and immediately dismissed it without giving this amazing genius band that had earned my trust. I'm going to elaborate on that a bit later in regards to Radiohead. They earned my trust at age 12, that they were musical geniuses and that they were capable of consistently making amazing music. And although I was a good soldier, I was a good Rush soldier, and I stuck with them through the subpar 90s, I did check out and failed to give them failed to give their millennium music the attention, the consideration that it deserved. So I went back to the Rush records and immediately loved all of it. Vapor Trails has some bangers. I think the first track is called One Little Victory. Ghost Rider's very cool. I like Snakes and Arrows even more. There's tons of amazing songs on that. And amazingly, their final album, Neil Peart tragically died, and in a fashion that I admire deeply. Alex and Geddy decided that Rush would no longer exist without Neil, and I think that was the right move. I'm sure it was very hard for them to make that decision, but you know, Neil was just as much of a driving force, and many people would probably argue that he was the most significant driving force of that band and their music. So I think that was a really admirable decision for them to say, okay, when one of us goes, the whole band goes. But Clockwork Angels, their final record in 2012, man, oh man, is it amazing. And I'm so glad that I loosened up my mind and ear to embrace this music, because it's so incredible. I mean, the title track right here, Clockwork Angels. This album is so good, by the way, that, and I believe Geddy said this himself in his book, I put it up there with the best Rush records. Permanent Waves. I love 70s Rush too. Fly By Night's a great album. It's flawed, it's young, but it's really great. But look at this, so majestic. What I'm trying to say is I put Clockwork Angels in the same company as Rush's best music. The great stuff of Fly By Night, 2112, Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures. I love 80s Rush too. I love tracks like Force 10, off Hold Your Fire, and Manhattan Project, and Big Money off Power Windows. This album is that good. It's up there and possibly better than the best stuff Rush has done. This track in particular, the title track, Clockwork Angels, is particularly Zeppelin-esque to me. And to me, there's probably no higher bar for rock and roll music that's been set. There's probably no higher bar for rock and roll music than the one that was set by Led Zeppelin. So to achieve that level of craft and greatness, to me, is essentially the ultimate feat for a musician. Yeah, hard rock and verse. It shifts to a pretty, I love that break. Boom, 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 boom. The ambient, atmospheric sound effects in the background. Shifts to a bit of an atmospheric chorus here. My favorite part is the midsection. Let me see if I can find that. Here we go. Those jazzy augmenting chords, whenever someone uses them, it always reminds me of Jimmy Page. So I think that underscores my take that this song is very Zeppelin-esque. Amazing stuff.